April 14, 2019. Hartford, Connecticut. The Clay Arsenal neighborhood sits just north of downtown. It's an area with deep roots, but also years of struggle, poverty, gun violence, and mistrust between residents and police. On Pavilion Street, a warm Sunday afternoon feels ordinary. Kids ride bikes. Music drifts from open windows. But just after noon, everything changes. Gunfire rips through the block. Neighbors scramble to safety. A man lies bleeding on the pavement. 28-year-old Derek Nichols has been shot multiple times. Within minutes, police swarm the scene. Evidence markers at the ground. Shell casings, bloodstains, shattered glass. Nichols' Honda Pilot sits parked a short distance away, its rear passenger window pierced by a bullet, its door smeared with blood. Witness Shalise Lockhart tells officers she saw Nichols inside a blue Acura, arguing with the driver. She claims he climbed out, stumbled, and was then shot again before collapsing in the street. But something about the scene feels off. Shell casings aren't found near the Acura at all. They're scattered almost 100 feet away, near Nichols' Honda. The pattern of blood, the position of the body, the damage to the pilot, all point to a different story. Yet in those early hours, police cling to Lockhart's version. A blue Acura with a taped yellow plate becomes the centerpiece of the manhunt. And for one man, it will mark the beginning of a nightmare. Police broadcast an alert. Be on the lookout for a blue Acura with a taped yellow plate. Minutes later, officers spot the car at a stoplight just 2 miles away. Behind the wheel is 31-year-old Sharelle Adams. She says the Acura belongs to her boyfriend, Osafa Williams. Williams isn't hard to find. He shows up willingly at the scene. Calm, composed, but cautious. He admits, yes, he was on Pavilion Street earlier. Yes, he heard gunfire. But no, he wasn't the shooter. He says he panicked and ran because he feared for his life. For detectives, it's suspicious. If he was innocent, why run? They swab his hands and clothes for gunshot residue. They swab the Acura inside and out. The results? Murky at best. Scientists find tiny fragments of lead, barium, and antimony. But never all three elements fused together. The signature of true gunshot residue. It means the results can't confirm he ever fired a gun. The particles could have come from the environment, from car brakes, even from being near the shooting. Still, prosecutors will later use those fragments as evidence. In investigations like this, perception can matter more than proof. And from that moment forward, police see Williams not as a witness, but as their prime suspect. 6 months pass. On October 11, 2019, police arrest 37-year-old Osafa Williams. He's charged with murder and illegal firearm possession. Williams pleads not guilty. He insists he never fired a weapon. He wasn't even armed that day. But prosecutors frame a different narrative. An eyewitness places Nichols inside Williams's car. Gunshot residue on Williams and in the Acura suggests firing. A surveillance camera captures the Acura speeding away from Pavilion Street moments after the shooting. It seems like a simple case, but anyone who studies wrongful convictions knows simple cases are rarely simple at all. Eyewitnesses can misremember, forensic science can mislead, and grainy videos can leave more questions than answers. For Williams, those questions will determine the rest of his life. October 2022. Hartford Superior Court. 3 years after the shooting, Williams stands trial for murder. The prosecution leans heavily on eyewitness Shalise Lockhart. She testifies that Nichols climbed out of the Acura and was shot again by the driver. But her story has changed. This time, she claims she also saw a flash of gunfire from inside the car, a detail she never mentioned before. The jury listens closely. Eyewitness testimony, even when flawed, can be powerful. Next comes the forensic evidence. The state's chemist testifies that while true gunshot residue wasn't detected, the particles found on Williams and in the Acura were consistent with firing a gun. The phrasing is deliberate and persuasive. The defense pushes back. They want to call an expert named Eric Eichler to break down the surveillance video. Frame by frame, Eichler would testify that Nichols never entered the Acura at all, directly contradicting Lockhart. But Judge Carl Schumann refuses. He rules the jury doesn't need an expert to interpret video. That ruling cripples the defense. Without Eichler, jurors are left to weigh a confident eyewitness against confusing science and a blurry video. The balance tips heavily toward guilt. On October 12, 2022, the jury returns. Guilty of murder. Guilty of firearm possession. Judge Schumann sentences Williams to 55 years in prison. Effectively a life sentence, In court, Williams lowers his head. Family members cry silently in the gallery. To him, it feels like the world has collapsed. He knows the physical evidence points away from the Acura, toward Nichols's Honda Pilot. He knows the surveillance video never shows Nichols climbing into his car. But the jury never heard that analysis. Williams is shipped off to prison, left with nothing but the hope of appeal. It's a hope that many wrongfully convicted men never see fulfilled. August 2024. The Connecticut Supreme Court takes up Williams's appeal. Lawyers argue that his conviction hinged on one eyewitness whose story conflicted with physical evidence. More importantly, they argue the trial judge wrongly barred expert testimony that could have changed the jury's view. The justices agree. They rule that Eichler's video analysis wasn't about identifying people, but about clarifying actions. Did Nichols ever enter the Acura? Eichler's expertise was crucial to that question. By blocking him, the trial was unfair. Williams's conviction is overturned. For the first time in 5 years, Williams sees hope. But freedom isn't guaranteed. The state prepares to retry him. And this time, the stakes are even higher. July 2025. The retrial begins. This time, the defense gets its chance. Eichler takes the stand. Frame by frame, he walks jurors through the surveillance footage. They see Nichols walk down the sidewalk, toward his Honda Pilot, not into the Acura. They see the flash of violence happen near the SUV, the same place where casings and blood are found. Suddenly, the pieces align. Lockhart's account falls apart. The physical evidence matches Eichler, not her. The prosecution leans on GSR again, but the jury now understands it's inconclusive. They point to the Acura fleeing the scene, but without Nichols inside, it's meaningless. After hours of deliberation, the jury returns. Not guilty. On July 25, 2025, after nearly 6 years behind bars, Osafa Williams walks free. The story of Osafa Williams is not just about one man. It's about the fragility of justice itself. How often do eyewitnesses misremember under stress? How often is forensic science oversold in courtrooms? How often do judges block experts whose testimony could mean the difference between guilt and innocence? Williams lost 6 years of his life because of these failures. And he is far from alone. In America, over 3,000 wrongful convictions have been documented since 1989. In many of them, the same ingredients appear: faulty eyewitnesses, junk science, and juries kept from hearing the full truth. For Williams, freedom finally came. But justice? That's another question. As he rebuilds his life, the system that failed him continues to fail others. And for every exoneration, countless more innocent people may still be waiting in silence.